my pleasure to talk to you today about something that isn't related to how to conform to new rules or emerging regulations, or how to enforce your rights. This topic is really about something where organisations set their own rules. So this is going to be on the topic of DotBrands. Now, obviously, Julius mentioned there about the future, and I certainly want to give you a glimpse of that. But before doing that, I'm going to just take you back and rewind a little bit to the past, so we're familiar with some of the background. So the birth of DotBrands occurred in 2012, and this is part of a wider program by ICANN that operates the names and numbers of the internet, when the new tLD application round opened. And this was to create competition against the small number of generic top-level domains that existed at the time, but also to create choice for end users and registrants, and also opportunities for more innovation in the DNS. There's a lot more to tap into the DNS that is used currently and in the past. With that, they opened a round, which was a major round, initially expecting probably about 500 applications. They were unsure of the demand. They were unsure how it was going to actually process all of the applications that it was going to receive. So it was quite overwhelmed when nearly 2,000 applications arrived on the doorstep in the last round. And significantly, about a third of the applications were from organizations wanting to protect and use their brand at the root of the internet by way of DotBrands. So this wasn't a simple process. There were various evaluations that were undertaken for each of the applications, whether it be technical, financial. So there was quite a lot of background checking before processing the applications further. There were some complications along the way because this was a new process and application round compared to previous sponsored rounds that ICANN had led before. What's worthy of note is also the value that is placed on some of these top-level domains, and in some ways where there were contention sets to resolve, where more than one application was received for the same string, such as a web, shop, and app, these attracted significant sums by way of auctions, which was a process to, or a final process essentially to manage those contention sets. So we saw numbers, multi-million dollars exchanged for to acquire those particular strings. So in 2012, we saw all these applications emerge. Some of them were in contention sets, but as a result of all of the applications received and processed, we grew from 22 generic top-level domains to 1,200 top-level domains. Some of those are very restrictive, like the brands, but also .bank, .insurance, .pharmacy. So they bring together a different set of registry models that emerged from the last round alongside .brands. And what did it offer? Well, you know, as well as protecting your major intellectual property assets at the root of the internet, it actually creates a lot more control. You're under no, you are able to set the rules and the parameters in which that space will be used by your organization. Nobody else needs to share it. It's a trusted space because, again, it's not multiple different users, it's not distributing and selling domains. And it also gives the opportunity to change and enhance the user experiences as they use and interact online, and certainly digital communications as well. So what we've seen over recent years is a growth of second-level domains registered within DotBrands, and that's gradually increasing. At the moment, it's in excess of 22,000 domains. And we need to remember that these are for a purpose. They're not for speculative gain. They're not for protective purposes. they're actually for a reason, is why they are registered and used within the DotBrand environment. So let me talk to you about some of the brands that did apply and are using their top-level domains. These are all significant and well-known organizations with a global presence and significant presences locally as well, for instance, for SNCF. Now, as I said earlier, that there are multiple usages or benefits that are derived from a DotBrand. And if you want to find out a little bit more about individual use cases, we've actually created a website, observatory.domains, where we've got some useful insights to existing DotBrands and how they are being deployed within those spaces. And this includes recent ones from ACO and AWS, which is part of Amazon. Now there's, as I say, a wide variety of use cases that that benefit the DotBrands, and spotted across this slide you'll see a very diverse range of brands: automotive industry, media, technology, pharmaceuticals, many different types of organizations. And they may have one or probably more typical use cases that combine to make it very worthwhile for them to divert their attention into a DotBrand landscape. I'm going to give you 7. I think it boils down to about 7 beyond the sort of high level protection of your own brand. But first of all, it's to help drive business. So it can embed meaningful and relevant experiences with your brand that captures customer trust and loyalty. Secondly is to improve conversion rates. So whether that's types of outreach for signing up for new services, buying new products, or obtaining email addresses from customers, it can improve those conversion rates, mainly through the trust element, which I'll come back to shortly. I think thirdly, it creates competitive edge and advantage. It has the built-in flexibility to create and embrace existing and future innovative technologies, such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, etc. Fourthly, I think it's highly visible and secure and trusted user experience, which provides that complete control over a dedicated namespace. And in that namespace, there's zero abuse, something that is of significant concern across the industry for the open commercial registries that have sold vast quantities of domains. Fifthly, it enhances brand recognition. So amongst all stakeholders, so it's internal and external, especially with digital communication. So if you think of marketing campaigns with emails going out that have the brand to the right of the dot, that creates greater trust and in turn conversion rates for those communications. 6, a consistent digital presence, and I'll come on to that a little bit more detail on the next slide, but in terms of distributing across international and diverse markets, or just simply for your operations and supply chains, it's that digital consistent presence that you can create within a DotBrand. And lastly, it's such a flexible environment. So there's no real restrictions to using the DotBrand in the way that serves purpose for your organization. So essentially you can register anything at the second level without restrictions that you see in, or the scarcity that you see in existing generic and country code top level domains. Excuse me. Here's drilling down to a few examples that I think are worthwhile honing in on. I mentioned SNCF earlier. I'm sure you may be familiar with them, but essentially in France, this is their main rail transport service provider, and they converted from SNCF .fr and .com environments across to we.sncf. So it was all part of a major marketing change, and reaches a huge network of people every day trying to plan their rail journeys, acquire their tickets. So there's vast quantities of transactions that have been passed across that particular website. So that's highly visible. It's shown that there's been a significant increase in awareness and recall of the brand, surrounded by this use of .sncf. So that's a significant change that they made, and one that they're seeing benefits already derived. With SEAT, this is an automotive firm, and what they've been able to achieve with their .brand, and in very similar lines to BMW and Audi, is that they've created many domains to support their network of dealerships. So basically the supply chain that they want to embrace and make sure that their customers have a consistent experience. So SEAT have developed their website presence, so it's very, very consistent. Users, customers know what this looks and feels like and can navigate around in all the different dealerships the same way. It also means that they can manage compliance activity easily, and bear in mind that they can switch these domains on and off, so they very much control any dealerships that come in but also exit their portfolio. And lastly, I'll take a look at BNP Paribas. So from the financial services sector, which is always wanting to ensure top security and trust for their customers, has moved their online banking services to mabank.bnp Paribas many years back. And they see 8 million online banking customers pass through their website every day for online banking services. That's significant. And when you look at those businesses that are dealing with end users, customers on a B2C scale, these are huge volumes of activities that they are seeing, illustrating that customers adapt very quickly to the .brand landscape. What I will also mention at this stage is that these are visible cases, and many of the examples that you'll see elsewhere picked up on the observatory website are easy to go and find yourself. But behind the scenes, there are many domains, again, registered with a purpose within these environments that support operations, services, or even business continuity aspects for the brand themselves. So it's not necessarily that the 22,000 domains all resolve to a website. They actually support critical business operations in the background, some of which are for retail and distribution networks that they support. So from a Com Laude perspective, I just want to make it clear that, you know, we've done a lot of work behind the last round to support brands to apply and make useful their .brand. There's a number of complexities behind this, but breaking it down into some sort of meaningful chunks, it is what are you going to apply for and why? What are your benefits that you want to derive out of that, and how does it fit in with your overall strategy? But how will you actually then navigate through the ICANN processes and the policies and obligations that you will then be party to? Because this isn't your core business. This is something very different. So managing this different environment is something that Com Laude has achieved with many global brands and well-recognized brands already. Essentially what we've set up for the next round as well then is to make sure that brands do realize maximum value from that investment. How do we do that? The thing that differentiates us the most, I would say, is that building on the lessons that we learned through the last round is to make sure that applicants truly understand the opportunities that a DotBrand brings to them, and to ensure that in that planning process, they understand how they will deploy the DotBrand. Last time it was very much a learn and wait and see exercise for many brands that were observing what was happening in the industry before pursuing any particular use cases. Now, these use cases may vary in how complex they may be, but some are very simple ways to actually start using a DotBrand. For instance, on social media, HSBC started using their DotBrand for the URL shorteners and very quickly saw an uptick in click-throughs as users began to trust that instead of what used to be a very awkward and cumbersome URL shortener that was meaningless in terms of what the user was clicking through to. That's not very disruptive to the existing digital landscape of a brand, but at least gets that recognition early on, and within the organization itself, visibility of the DotBrand, and upon that, lots of use cases can emerge as internal functions become to understand it more. So it's not just an application process, but we do that. We do it really well. So we accomplished 20% of the DotBrand applications in the last round, and we are concentrating these days on benefits delivery. And this is now what we've brought together as a package for the next round. So when are we looking to see this happen? Well, within the ICANN landscape, if you're familiar with it, these things can be fluid. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of time in terms of a multi-stakeholder approach rather than a commercial approach to actually progress these developments. And what we have seen over the last few years is very much a focus on reviewing what happened in the last round, how to improve that for subsequent rounds. And now we've seen a lot of work being delivered to the ICANN board, which is now reviewing and assessing the community's recommendations for the next round. A lot of that is based on what existed or was created in the last round, but there are still some refinements and streamlining that we expect to be included. For instance, as part of that, we saw the applicant fee for the last round stand at $185,000. Therefore, if we expect some of the streamlining to be implemented in the next subsequent rounds, we would expect that figure of $185,000 to come significantly lower. Nevertheless, we've still got time to plan and see what the final rules will be delivered by ICANN, expected in 2023. Now, given the fact that these projects take a long time to coordinate and engage internal stakeholders, we believe that an 18-month project is reasonable for any large organization to commit to in the lead up to the next application round. So that, for a number of reasons, is not just about internal engagement, but securing the budget cycles. So from our point of view, we're here and available to talk to you and help you map out your plans for the next round. So do feel free to contact myself and my colleague Nick, and we'll be very happy to engage with you and see how we can help deliver a DotBrand for you in the future.